Okay, here we go. This is solving simple equations. This is for geometry. You might be thinking or asking yourself, why are we doing algebra and geometry? This geometry class has a ton of algebra in it. You use algebra in almost every single unit we're going to have here, so it's good to have a quick review of solving equations. Okay, so just taking a look at these practice problems. The first three don't look too bad. You guys can probably handle those. I want to start looking at number 4 and 5, okay, because they look very similar, but they need to be solved quite differently. Okay, so we have g plus 2 divided by 6 equals 8.5, and then we got g divided by 6 plus 2. Okay, so um, the way we solve these are drastically different, and here's why. Remember from the lesson before is that we want to solve these equations by performing the inverse operations in reverse order. Okay, so if we think about that, if we take a look at 4 and 5, I'm going to kind of write this in the margin here. Let's just say, so here's 4. 4 is g plus 2 over 6 is equal to 8.5. Well, if we knew that g was 10, and we were actually solving this problem, right? If we were to substitute that out and said 10 plus 2 is equal to 8.5. Okay, so if we were saying this, right, we would want to solve this by simplifying the top first and then dividing by 6. Okay, you wouldn't want to divide 10 by 6 and divide 2 by 6. You would want to add those two first and then divide. Okay, so that's how we would perform this if we were actually solving it. So then to solve the equation here, we want to do the opposite of everything, right? We want to do the opposite of division first, and then we would want to do the opposite of addition next, right? And that's exactly how we're going to solve this one here. Okay, so the opposite of division is multiplication, right? If I multiply by 6 here, what that's going to do is this is going to cross cancel, right? So this would be 1 in the denominator. And anytime you have 1 in the denominator, you don't have to write that out, right? Technically, we could write 8.5 over 1. We can write any number over 1, any whole number over 1, but we don't need to do that, right? So we're just going to simplify this by just putting g plus 2, and we're not even going to write over 1. So that's what the left side simplifies to. And then if we multiply by 6 on this side, we have to multiply by 6 on the other side. And when we do that, 8.5 times 6 is 51. All right, so we did the inverse operation of division, which is multiplication. Now we need to do the inverse operation of addition, which is subtraction. We do it to one side, got to do it to the other side. So we get g is equal to 49. All right, it's bad g, there we go. All right, hopefully that makes sense. So number 5, we go over here. Number 5 is pretty similar. Let's say, so, g divided by 6 plus 2 is equal to 8.5. So again, if we were solving this problem, right, we wouldn't want to add first. We would divide, right? Because that's what GEMDAS would tell us to do, right? If we had a number in here, I'm going to give an easy one so it makes sense. So if I had g was equal to 12 or something, it's not for this problem, but if I had this and I wanted to solve here, I would want to do the division before the addition, right? Because the d comes before the a in GEMDAS. So that's how we know we got to do that first. So when we undo these operations, we want to work backwards. Okay, so hopefully that makes sense, the difference between the two types of problems that you're going to see on the test. So for this one, I want to subtract 2 on both sides first, and I'm going to be left with g over 6 on the one side and 6.5 on the other side. All right, now to get g totally by itself, I just need to do the opposite of division and multiply by 6, which will cancel that out. Just be left with g, and we multiply by 6 over there as well, and I should be left with 39. 6.5 times 6 is 39. Okay, hopefully that makes sense. Let's see if there's any. This one looks pretty easy, only one step there. Here's a two-stepper, another two-step problem. Hopefully these ones are pretty automatic for us right now, right? So for number 7, all we would have to do is add 6, and then divide by 3, right? So I'll let you guys do that one. Let's see which ones look a little bit different. Let's look at number 9. I'm going to do, so here's what I would do. When you have something like this part here, okay, where it's a negative fraction, what I would do is put the negative so that, you couldn't have a negative in the top and the bottom. Otherwise, that would be a positive fraction, right? A negative divided by a negative is a positive. So you can only consider one of those negative. So what I would do is kind of just consider this as g over negative 6. Okay, so we'll get to that. Let's just follow this step first. So before I start messing with that, I'm going to get rid of this negative 5. So I'm going to add 5 on both sides. All right, and I'm left with negative. I'm going to do g over, that's bad g. It's a bad erase job. So g over negative 6 is equal to 20. Okay, and so now it makes this a lot easier if I go ahead and multiply by negative 6. Now I got a negative 6 divided by negative 6. So now that reduces down to positive 1. So I can just write g here. And then when I multiply by negative 6 over here, I get negative 120. Okay, so that could save you some steps there if you just remember to put the negative in the denominator. Okay, all right, number 10 looks pretty similar to number 4, right? So make sure you multiply by 4 on both sides first. Let's see, 32 is a little bit different. We just have to combine like terms first, right? These are both z's, right? We've got 12 z's, and then we got 26 negative z's, if you want to think about it like that. So let's combine those. So 12 minus 26. When you're combining like terms like that, don't put any extra symbols in. If you just see a 12 minus 6 minus 26, just put that into your calculator and you'll get the right answer, which is negative 14. We're talking about z's here. And 32, drop down everything else. Then all we got to do is divide by negative 14. Negative 14. Some of these are not very pretty answers, I see. Negative 14 divided by negative 14 is positive 1. So we can just put 1. We don't need, or 1z there. We don't need to put the 1 in front, the coefficient of 1 in front. And then let's see. This reduces down to negative 16/7. Okay. It's not a pretty answer, but it's the right answer nonetheless. Okay. Let's see, for D, or sorry, not for D, for 16, we're going to have to multiply by 0.8 first. We're going to have to divide by 3. Let you guys tackle that one. Let's look at 17. 17. This is a little bit tricky, right? What we need to do is get the constants on one side and the variable on the other side, right? So we want to get the variable on one side and then the number without the variable on the other side. Okay, so what I would do here first is get this negative 10 out of here by adding 10. And if you add 10 to one side of the equal sign, you have to add it to the other side. So now we've got 5g plus 3g is equal to 10. And now we can combine these like terms. 5 G's here, 3 G's there. Got a total of 8 G's over 10. And then this is really 8 times G, so I got to get rid of it by doing the opposite, which is division. So I'm left with 1G is equal to 5 over 4, or you might get or 1 1/4, or 1 and 0.25. All these answers are correct. I don't care which way you give it to me. This is just an improper fraction, a mixed number, or a decimal. They're all right. It's all the same thing. So hopefully that is helpful. I think I attempted at least each type of problem that you might see on the test. Now that I'm looking at 14, I want to go through that one really quick. 14 is a little bit different. For 13, just make sure you put that negative with that 6. That might help you out. For this one here, first thing you want to do is get rid of this 0.8. So it's a positive 0.8. So I want to get rid of it by subtracting 0.8. If I do it on one side, I got to do it to the other side. And so I'll be left with negative t is equal to, what is that equal? 3.3. All right. So one thing, actually I'll show you like the official way. This is really negative 1t. Okay, but we don't want to solve for a negative t or negative 1t. We want to know what a positive t is equal to. So we want to divide, just like we do every other time. We want to divide by the same coefficient in front of the variable. So if this is a negative 1, we want to divide by negative 1. And then if we do it on one side, we have to do it to the other side. So negative 1 divided by negative 1, that's positive 1, right? A negative over a negative is a positive. So we're left with positive t, and then 3.3 divided by negative 1 is just going to become negative 3.3. All right, so there we go. One thing you might, hopefully you're already at, is to recognize that if a negative t is equal to a positive 3.3, hopefully we recognize that it's just going to be the opposite. A positive t is going to equal a negative 3.3. Okay, so there's two ways to look at that. Hopefully both of those help you. All right, so that's just about every type of problem. If you need more help, definitely reach out to me and we can do a Google Meet or a Zoom Meet or whatever, and we can go over some more of these problems. All right, later.